Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm going to talk about fear and basically learning and developing the habit of eating it for breakfast. Here's what I mean. In your 20s, you're going to come up against a lot of fears, and they're different for different guys. For some people, they are fear of failing, not being successful in life, a fear of not living up to the expectations of your family, friends, or society, a fear of being alone, of not having somebody to care for you or a partner. And a lot of guys are just afraid of being virgins. And then you have those who are just afraid of being losers. Basically, all these things are stacked up and they're afraid that I'll never make it financially, I'll never get the body I want, I'll never get the woman I want, and I'm just gonna be a failure. One of the biggest lessons that I learned from my 20s, I wouldn't even call it a lesson, it was a regret first, and to be honest with you, it still is a regret, was the fact that I ran away from fear way too many times, and it became a habit for me. As some of you know, I was in direct sales, I was in door-to-door sales, and I did this for many years. But for the first few years that I did this in my 20s, I let fear overcome me. First, it was fear of rejection, because we went door to door. So I would see some doors, and in my head, there would just be this huge fear of somebody rejecting me, or somebody pulling a gun at me, or somebody insulting me and throwing me off their property.
Get off my property!
I will, but I got a question for you.
Get off my property!
Bear in mind, I was a guy who grew up, and as much as my parents tried to encourage me, for most of my life, the messages that I was given growing up was that I was slow, that I wasn't good looking because I had a lot of acne as a teen. Nothing really positive. A lot of the things that I wanted to achieve and I achieved were literally things that I had to believe I could do. I spent a lot of time being very introspective in my head and dreaming and daydreaming. Anyone who grew up with me as a child knew that I spent a lot of time just playing with stones and random objects and just lost in my own world. But this was the only thing that basically saved me, and it's the same thing that has helped me now. I had very low self-esteem and very low self-confidence. So I was afraid of everything, and I spent most of my life retreating. And so many of us are in that same position where whenever we come up against something that's uncomfortable or we face an incredible fear, we justify it and we run away from it. For me, it was in sales, and it became a bad habit. It negatively impacted my entire sales career until I overcame it. Also with women, a lot of guys face this with the opposite sex, is you see a woman that you're really attracted to, and all you do is just look at her and admire her. You might have an urge to talk to her, but maybe you just never had the belief that you could do that. The way I overcame both of these things was, I remember 4 years into my sales career, I reached this point where I was tired of being the person at the bottom of the list every week when it came to our sales numbers. I was always among the worst. Always, because I really wasn't working. I was spending more time running away and justifying my fears. So I remember one Sunday, we were gonna go to work on Monday. I sat down and I wrote out a list of all the prospects that I had collected in a very half-assed way for the past week. And I decided on one very simple thing. I was going to do everything that I was afraid of doing that week.
Hell, it's about time.
So basically, if I was driving down the street and I saw a home, it didn't matter whether it was a prospect or not, and if my mind said, you shouldn't knock on that door because it's got a gate and it's a big home and this isn't the sort of neighborhood that you want to be cold calling in, they're probably going to call the cops on you, or worse, you might even get shot. That was the house that I was going to knock on. That was it. That was just the only thing. So I did that. I did that for the entire week. And what eventually happened was that it turned out to be my best week. The truth was, I did get some rejections, but none of them were as bad as I expected them to be or as I anticipated. There were a few that were bad, but I don't, even till today, I don't remember a single one of the rejections. I just know that they were there. What I do remember is that it was the best week of my summer, and it's one that really changed the fears. In fact, what happened was that it brought a new fear into my life, and that new fear became the fear of success, because I finished that week as one of the top salespeople in the company, and the new fear I had was the fear that I couldn't do it again. But deep down inside me, I knew I could. I was just afraid to go through with facing my fears again.
Fear is a choice.
Another place that this happened to me was with, another aspect was with women. I was constantly afraid of approaching women. I would see attractive women. I was not a catcalling kind of guy, but I just look at them and just wish I could be one of the guys who spoke to them. I had a million ways of justifying it. I would tell myself things like, you're not good looking enough, you've got an accent, she's probably not into black men, all kinds of excuses, and I'd let the opportunity walk by. It wasn't until again, I just decided that I was going to do the things I was afraid of. If I saw a woman and she was attractive and I had the time, not as an excuse, like I literally was, I'm just like, I'm shopping right now, I'm in the bookstore, there's an attractive woman, I would just go talk to her. It didn't matter what the situation was. And it's very uncomfortable, it was very uncomfortable at first, but I started doing it. And a lot of times I just started doing it by just saying hi and giving a compliment. And gradually it became a little bit more sophisticated. I became a lot more bold. I became a lot more comfortable with expressing my feelings to a strange woman, but in a masculine way. And this worked for me. And I started to have dates. I eventually started dating women. And my whole life changed. So my point is that victory is always sweeter when you have earned it, because it takes an incredible amount of work and perseverance to overcome your fears and overcome them over and over and over and over again. If you're afraid of approaching women, you're not going to approach 10 women and be done with the fear. All right? It's different for different guys, but you might have to approach 60 women. You might have to approach 100. You might have to approach 300 women before it works for you, before you're comfortable with it. But that's the work you need to do if that's something you seriously want to overcome. Of course, if you just want to hide on a dating app like Tinder, hey, be my guest, go for it. If you're in sales and you're afraid of rejection, or you're running your own business and you're afraid of pitching your business, you're gonna have to go out and do it over and over and over and over again. But it feels good because you know you put in the work and you succeeded. Eat fear for breakfast. Eat fear for breakfast. Make that your habit. When you wake up in the morning, you decide that today I am going to face all my fears. I don't care how intense they are. I'm going to do it. Each time you do it, you're gonna get a rush of adrenaline. Sometimes you're not gonna get a rush of adrenaline. Sometimes you're just gonna feel horrible because you face a terrible rejection or it goes wrong. That's okay. You are winning. That's how you win. You win by putting yourself in those situations where you face your fears. I'll say this much. Every regret you will ever have in your 20s is going to be based on something you were afraid to do and you didn't do it. You will always have regrets. There's always going to be situations with women, in business, in opportunities, in so many things. And this becomes a habit. And the worst thing you can do is, as a man, go into your 30s without having conquered these fears. Now, if you're watching this and you're already in your 30s and you're like, holy shit, I fucked up, it's not too late. But I'll be honest with you, you're going to have to put in an incredible amount of relentless, focused work on your fears to literally have a chance at redeeming yourself. This isn't a joke. This is life. A lot of us in this generation take this for granted and we just let shit go. We don't overcome our fears. We find ways to escape from it. And then we wonder why we aren't where we are in life. Because you're not doing the most basic thing, which is overcoming your fears. So my tip for today is eat beer for breakfast. Have a good day.